Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Pandora as well as the latest episode of The 100. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include the time I'm going to start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Pandora, you can skip to what I say about this week's episode of the 100. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Pandora. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, you had this Lieutenant Collins there at the school. He's kind of talking about like this very famous mission and kind of like, you know, Earthcom's history when it was like Earth was at war with his Antarians. He kind of even getting a little choked up and everything. But then later on, he kind of snaps and attacks Raylan. They're like, oh, why did that come from? But I assumed it was just kind of like, well, there's already bad blood. But I guess it's kind of like, well, so much the hatchet had already been buried. So I guess that's why it was kind of like, well, he's a lieutenant. He's supposed to be professional. The fact is he did that. But he just, I guess, seems so out of control. And the fact is that, well, he just kind of pushed the guard away like it was nothing. Raylan handled his own. But, you know, it's Xander stepping in to kind of shock the dude and knock him out. But still was kind of interesting. Like, because I would have never really thought too much of it. I would have just been like, oh, he has issues. I was like, oh man, like it's just a bad blood between humans and the Zutarians. I was like, oh, that's just all that is. But it's like, no, ends up being much more than that, because it turns out he's taking this drug called Ryodine. Essentially, it's literally a battle enhancement drug. Essentially, when it comes to the fight or flight aspect of your brain, it shuts down the flight, so you're full blown fight. It basically turns you into an unrelenting soldier, not afraid to, of death. You always push forward. You need those type of fighters in a war with the Centaurians. But the sad thing is, it's very addictive. So even though the war has been done for a while, it's still people, who are on that are addicted to it. And it's kind of like, obviously you can make parallels to real life in the sense of like, there's a lot of things that people might do in war that they're not that proud of. This is one of those sad things that's not part of the history books in this world of like what Earth was willing to do to win the war, because it's like Earth was on the verge of extinction during this war, so we kind of had to do whatever and cross whatever lines because the drug is super illegal. But and I guess Osborn's knowing as much as he did, even knowing that, because it's like I said, because like this entire history kind of made it seem like, oh man, the Sea-Hulk and everything, like these people were, this and that. But you find out that so much of history is a lie. I mean, it's kind of interesting because it's kind of like the argument that, once again, kind of parallels to real life. The fact of the matter is, it's like history is written by the winners of war, so you can like change and make everything. You can hide all the dirty secrets and just like publicize like the more glamorous aspects to it. I mean, granted, there's nothing glamorous about war, but you can always shine yourself in a more positive light, being like, oh, we were the great heroes against, unrelenting. But then at the same time, it's like what you basically turned your soldiers into super soldiers, unrelenting, and basically got them hooked on a specific drug. So that's the whole thing. But the interesting thing about it is, thanks to Polar, like they were looking into stuff and found out that the Sea-Hulk, this ship that was supposedly destroyed, making a great sacrifice during the war, didn't actually get destroyed. And it turns out 3 months ago, it was in the general vicinity of New Portland. So it's like they might have had something to do with the colony being attacked and Jax's parents being killed. So it's also interesting, dude, because a parallel, I keep saying parallel, I need to find a new word. An interesting aspect to this all too is like, all while this is happening, you have like the whole Jack and Greg situation. I like that like just speedily happened in between episodes. And I also love the fact that everyone else is just like, oh my god, just like even Pilar is like, I kind of lost my appetite because they just keep basically sucking each other's faces, because they're just like, it's like, oh, stop being, all right, get a damn room, you two, jeez, being all cutesy and whatnot. But it's a very interesting aspect because they bring Xander into this, because obviously they can't talk to Osborn about it, because the moment it's like, oh, once the Ryodine situation comes, it's like, yeah, kind of keep that to yourself. It's like, okay, can't come to him about anything and can't trust him. Osborn just seems sleazier and sleazier the more episodes that pass, because just like so much, but you're not telling. It's like, it's almost hard to say, like, are you a good guy in this situation? Because it seems like, are you keeping secrets for the sake of, for the better? Is it one of those things where it's like your government doesn't tell you everything, because if they told you everything, you'd literally be panicking all the time? It's like, tell the public what they need to know at the appropriate time type of thing. I wonder, is that what, and how did Osborn put himself in a position where it's like, oh yeah, I know the things that generally other people don't know? It brings up questions like that. It also turns out the Ryodyne is made by Parallax. So this is like, God, Regan and her family right in the middle of this, which maybe we'd seen him before. I don't think so. But we see Regan and her dad. I don't think it's the same actor. Is that the same actor who played Rabbit in Banshee? I don't think it is. I would assume, I was about to say it wouldn't be, but I was like, no, I mean, just because you do a show like Banshee doesn't mean you can't do other stuff that's not Banshee, like if you've never seen Banshee, it's crazy violent, sex, nudity type of thing, but it's like, that's why I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of stuck in my own ways of thinking like that. I don't know why I thought but he looks similar to him, but I don't know if that's actually because I think the actor who played Rabbit, his name is Ben Cross. I don't think that's him. I think that's someone else who just might look similar to, or maybe it is him. Either way, it's kind of interesting because like her dad is like, oh yeah, I know you want to kill me for power, but power isn't given, it's taken, and it's like you might want to think twice before you kill me, because it's like if I die, basically it's like someone else is going to step in, so it's like you might want me to stay in the position I am, stay as alive as long as possible, because you get to reap the benefits of being my daughter and me being in this position. But if not, other people might step in and cause an issue, kind of might usurp your attempt to kind of essentially take the literal throne, but kind of metaphorical throne, in the grand scheme of things. It's interesting. But they're making a deal with the captain because the captain was searching for something for them, the location of something, which we don't know what. But the whole plan is like, well, it turns out like Ryodyne basically kills you. I'm curious, is it just prolonged use of it will eventually wear your body down to the point if you don't have it, you'll die? Or is it a situation of even if you use it once is all it takes for it to eventually kill you if you don't keep resupplying yourself, which is interesting. But that's the plan, to just and I guess it's the most easy and most proficient way to kill them. It's just this way. It's just kind of like, oh well, they're just gonna die from what happened to it, So not giving them the drugs, it just kind of helps us get rid of them later on. But obviously Xander, Greg, and Pilar and Jax all go to kind of investigate the situation, find out where the Seahawk is, and basically, get the information they need and kind of expose this whole situation, to be honest. What was interesting, though, is you could tell, Xander seeing Jack and Greg together, it seemed like it bothered him. I was like, is it because he kind of has a thing for Jack, or is it because he knows the truth about Jack's situation? So it's just kind of like she's pretending so, she's living this life of, being a normal teenager and in love, and maybe it just makes him sad because he knows the truth about her, or was it just because he does on some level like her, and it was just kind of or is it just kind of, I don't necessarily like you, but it's just kind of annoying the way you two are just like I said, just keep kissing and making out all the time. Just stop. Take a breath. Jeez. But nevertheless, poor Greg kind of got his ass kicked at first by the captain on the Seahawk, and then it turns out, because Jax ends up trying to find out information, okay, why did you destroy the colony? And it's no, they were there investigating some power source. Parallax had actually sent them there. So obviously, hence why Parallax knows what they know about Jax. So then the question becomes someone else attacked the colony. I guess it's the whole thing as a kind of cover up went there, because that is a big question too, because is it a coincidence that Jax just happened to get away, or was the whole point to wait while she was was it a planned attack to happen while she was gone, or was she meant to die in it, but she just happened to survive, so whoever attacked the colony kind of failed? Maybe she was the main reason. Maybe she's connected to it, because there was that thing they found in that area at the beginning of the series, our heroes did, that little portal thing, which is connected to Jax, or rather Pandora, and what that all entails. Maybe because she is Pandora and the whole metaphorical letting out all the evil, maybe she could open that portal and pull more stuff out, so I'm curious what her whole situation really is, and who was it Parallax who attacked or whatever, because the Seahawk was that wasn't us, they wouldn't be attacking humans, but it's just kind of why, who else was there at that time? You would think the Seahawks might have been able to witness something, or maybe it was just maybe it's an invisible attack, whatever the case may be. But because of their whole situation of being kind of because even though the war's over, you have them being okay, we're going to actually go through with the Firebird plan. Obviously we got this legend built up about us as being the ones who committed it, saved the day. It's this time we're actually going to do it, but they're going to do it to a Xantarian where there's citizens at. It's not even like a war vessel or anything. There's just mainly citizens here. You're going to potentially start another war, but in his paranoid mind, it's like, no. The Zentarians are always ready for battle. You just can't underestimate that. Like, the fact is they never give up. There's never, like, they've always been continuing their preparation for war. But obviously Jax is like, no, you're just crazy, and her and Greg try to stop. Like, it means like being on a ship to try and stop it. And initially Jax wants to make the sacrifice, but Greg doesn't stand. I didn't see that coming. I was like, oh crap. And it's like, it was like, wait, Greg, what? And Greg's like, take this chance, like, find out what happened to your parents, because obviously like all of this is connected. Says he loves her and sends her on the drop ship, and the ship explodes, and like Greg sacrificed himself. I was like, wait, what? I guess that's another reason why they kind of pushed like that relationship even faster, just because of like what was coming next. Of like, I wasn't expecting that. I was like, oh, I thought you'd be around forever, but it's like, holy shit, that sucks. Like probably her, I wouldn't say her first love, but over the course of the show, this person you've gotten close to, who's been there to help you, you've obviously got a very strong relationship with, and it's like they're gone. It's like, that's harsh. And even Xander later on, it's like, oh, like that captain is vilified as being like, not vilified, I'm pretty sure I might be using that word wrong, but he's kind of praised for being this hero, but it's like, no, the real hero is Greg, willing to sacrifice himself for the sake of trying to stop a war. But then like Osborn does the shittiest thing to basically say that Greg's death was kind of for nothing, because it was basically like, oh yeah, the fact of the matter is that Captain wasn't paranoid. The Zentarians really have been arming for war the entire time. We looked into kind of some of the claims he had, and it turns out some of his theories, we panned it out. It's like, oh, we've known for a while. And it also turns out Osborn's been in touch with the Sea-Hulk, even though they kind of been running around kind of doing a lot of damage and stuff like that. But it's like, oh, like if, the Zentarians would have never held it against us if like some rogue captain or whatever ended up, because it would have just been like, oh man, EarthCon knew nothing about this, like, oh, like we thought this, and it's just like, oh, they've been around this entire time doing all this, playing ignorant, which a lot of EarthCon could. But Osborn would, he's just a little too comfortable with all of this. And obviously you can see it kind of bothers Xander, but like that's what I'm saying, like it's sad, because it almost means like Greg literally died for nothing. It's like, oh, he made this bold sacrifice to like almost stop a war from coming, but it's like the war's coming anyway. Zentarians are arming up. Earth kind of knows about it, or at least certain people on Earth know, but they're just not telling everyone else. I guess it's just kind of like I guess they want to keep the Zentarians thinking like, oh, you keep doing your things, you think you're secret about it, but it's like, no, we know all about it type of thing. But it's just kind of sad that it just immediately undercuts his sacrifice like that. It's literally the next scene after he sacrifices himself that are just kind of like, oh, it was literally for nothing, because it wouldn't have sparked the war, even though there's literally a war on the horizon anyway. Because that's why they wouldn't have done anything, because I was like, oh, we want to hide what we're really up to. It's just kind of a shame. Once again, that kind of proves in my mind too, like Osborn, like he's the one that ended up destroying this shit. Like I said, the way Raylan was kind of like, what secrets do you have to hide, makes me think he was the one responsible for blowing up that ship with that specimen on it, that like obviously the Zentarians wanted to get their hands on it because they know that this is connected to the New Portland thing. Parallax like discovered some power source. They figure it's probably all connected. They weren't trying to destroy the ship and prevent it from going to Earth. They were probably going to try and move it or hijack it. Maybe the plan was to destroy it and just someone else came to it first, or maybe the Zentarians did. I'm leaning more towards like Osborn and EarthCon are the ones behind that, but like I said, we'll kind of have to wait and see in that regard. But yeah, that's just kind of like a rough situation, because even Xander's like, why go through all this trouble then if that was kind of all the plan? But it's like, lose the little fights so that you can win the big wars. It's basically like, pick your fights, because by losing this, we prepare ourselves to win the greater battle, win the war. So that's just, I don't know. It's just, you just don't like Osborn. He just seems like such a evil person. Like or rather, his motives are just so shrouded because you don't know what he's up to, like that's what makes him seem so conniving, so I'm interested to find out what that's all about. Another side of this episode I thought was kind of interesting. I love Atria is trying to like get someone to go to the open mic. She goes to visit Tom. Interesting enough, we end up learning that Thomas's dad was actually in the military, and even Atreus was like, your dad was in it, and it's like, yeah, that's a story for another time, because I'm not about to trail down that path. But essentially he talked about some of the like terrible things like EarthCon had to do during the war. I also love that Atria situation of her going into his room and basically he's having virtual sex with his girlfriend Monica, and she's like, "What were you doing?" He's like, "What do you think we're doing?" Oh, you were having sex, but virtual sex? She's like, "I mean, I've never had virtual sex myself. I've always had real life sex." And he's like, Thomas is like, "I can't believe this conversation is happening right now," because I was wondering, like, legitimately, there's a part of me wondering, I was like, oh, like, I was like, because I was thinking when she was like, "What were you doing?" I was like, oh, does she not know? Because obviously there are things that as a clone she doesn't really know, like a lot of stuff about humans, but like for her to be like immediately like, "Oh man, I've had sex with a whole bunch of different aliens." I'm like, okay, so you're not like, this ain't like something new to you. You're like, oh, you're well versed in this whole situation. I mean, well versed might be the weird, but I mean, you're knowledgeable in that area, so it's like, oh, it's not nothing new. I thought it might be something lost on her because she's a clone, but it's like, no, she's familiar with it. I even love her being like, oh yeah, one of the aliens she was with was like, has both genitalia, and she's like, oh, that was kind of like a wild experience, but I love it. It's interesting, too, to know that, I mean, I guess that's the futuristic version of sex and whatnot, and his girlfriend didn't seem all that pleased about it. I'm wondering, did she kind of, because she ends up breaking up with Tom later on. I even love the line of, like, because obviously she didn't even visit me virtually to break up with me. She sent a pre-recorded virtual thing, so it's like, it's like not even face-to-face. It's less face-to-face than a virtual. It's like you double backed on, like, how not face-to-face it was. It's like, why did you break up? Maybe they were going to break up anyway, or maybe it's just like Atria just walking in like that made her think like, oh, are you cheating on her? You got someone else? It's like, maybe it's just the whole long distance relationship. Even Greg was like, oh yeah, that relationship's not going to last, especially because he was like, oh, Atria and Thomas are going to be a thing, especially because like later on Atria's like, oh my god, like, don't worry, you deserve better, you'll find someone better type of thing. But I also love, it's like, oh, kind of explaining everything. It's like, next time, how about you just don't come in? She's like, all right, I got it. And he's like, this tie, it means next time to know that means like I'm in the middle of something, don't come in. It's like, all right. So I thought that was kind of neat. Obviously, you also have Raylan kind of dealing with, obviously, the racism and everything. Like, in that class where they're, like, fighting, like, projections and stuff like that, kind of military training. And one of the programs is designed to look like him. And the students are laughing. They're like, oh, one of them kills the fake Raylan and just come like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And he's pissed because the teacher won't do anything about it. But it's like, you should be glad that I'm not doing anything about it. Because this way, when you know the racist, when they're open about the racism, it's like, okay, you know who not to mess with. You know they're not cool with you, not to be cool with them. Who you should be worried about are the people who pretend to be your friends. Like, they're the most dangerous, and kind of recognizing that is kind of a key thing. Like, you got to prepare yourself for that. Raylan ends up getting attacked by some students being like, oh, go back to your world, Zatari, and they beat him up, and he defends himself. Like, he picks himself up, and then he kicks one of the dude's asses. Like, we'll probably find out later on who those students are. Maybe it won't matter because they're just a symptom of a bigger issue. And I really thought it was kind of interesting because later on, Raylan goes on the stage, and he tells, like, a joke that basically involves Uranus and, toilet paper. It's a toilet humor joke, and Atria is like Atria is the only one that stands out. She's like, ah, no, she doesn't. She bursts out laughing, and it's just like you hear her voice, and it's like, yeah, he's like, yeah, that was Earth humor. I don't get it, but Raylan kind of speaks from his heart. And to basically talk about the fact is, it's not just humans that ridicule him for being here. Like, obviously there's a lot of bad blood, but even his own people are like, are you stupid? You're weird, you're crazy for being the one to make this decision to go to, like, this Earth Fleet School. But for him, it's like, I want to be the one who bridges the gap between our two people, because there's a lot of hurt around. Zatarians did a lot to Earth. Earth did a lot of, there's a lot of hurt here, and a lot of people are obviously having to deal with those feelings, and I understand. But to me, it's like, if we don't come together, if we die, if we don't, we could so easily die alone, but wouldn't it be better to die together? Because the fact of the matter is, in this life, we are here so brief, but our impact, we could do so much better together, and it's like basically saying that I am Raylan and I am here and I'm not going anywhere. And you may feel the way you do, but we can change things, we can make things better, we can go towards a better future, essentially. And people applaud and everything. So I thought that was kind of a neat, kind of like secondary story to the episode. So I'm very interested to see ultimately where all this ends up taking us going forward, because like obviously because the rest of the group doesn't know about, obviously we still, next episode, I'm sure we're going to be dealing with the ramifications of like, oh yeah, like, Greg's death, like the whole group, dealing with that. And then the whole situation of just, I'm sure more stuff about Thomas's dad. That might not be next episode, but that does seem like that's something they're setting out to be like, oh yeah, that's kind of a story in its own. Obviously, even, Thomas had said it's like, yeah, I apologize, like my dad's just kind of a sore subject. So I'm interested to see where that all goes. More about this Parallax situation, like how much of that stuff dealing with the Seahawk is going to be public knowledge, how much of it's going to be covered up, how much are they going to be told not to say much about. Stuff like that I'm very curious about, so we'll just ultimately have to wait and see. And now moving on to this week's episode of the 100, another great episode. Damnedest show in the feels. Like, holy crap, the feelings I'm feeling right now. Nevertheless, I'm going to get to it soon enough, but just kind of, let's just break down everything that went down in this episode. So first and foremost, like, you have Clark still pretending to be Josephine, hearing, Russell's plans for Maddie and whatnot, and even having Maddie being like, oh, we're going to kill you. She's going to basically enjoy killing Russell because it's like, because of you, I lost my mom, that being Clark. And it's just like, and even then the whole thing of we. So it's like at that point, Shaheda and Maddie are like blending together to the point it's more so him at points being like, oh, I'm either you let me out because either I'm gonna kill this child, because obviously it's a tough situation, because if they keep drawing from her like this, the whole thing is going to be too much for her body to handle and she'll die. But Shaheda will kill the child if Raven keeps on what she's doing, trying to get rid of him. And it's like the flame is protecting him. Like, once again, it's like, it is kind of interesting because it seems like he somehow managed to stay in control. Like, obviously he has access to some kind of system in the flame where he's able to push back all the other commanders, making it so that Maddie can only hear his voice. And obviously you have Abby kind of breaking down because she sees Clark and it's like, but it's Josephine. And then like Raven's there to comfort her, because it's like, you literally just dealing with the loss of Marcus. Now you've lost your only child too. It's like, that's enough to break anyone. But no, despite, the circumstances and everything, it's a whole complicated thing that I love that later on she comes back around and hugs her mom. And it's like, yes, you're letting them know what's up. And Abby lights up again because it's like, my little girl's alive. Yes. And then it's like, it's so good, and I love it. It's like, yes, there's a win, at the very least. And then like, she's like, she wants to take Raven to drop the shields, but it's like, no, I can't go. And she's like, okay, I love that her mom is like, don't worry, I'm gonna protect Maddie, because at first she injects herself with the night blood because it's like, I want to make sure that this way they get the night blood they need without us having to do any more stuff to Maddie, because at that time she's like, I got nothing else to live for, so if I had to make the sacrifice, let it be, But then even Jackson makes a remark of mother like daughter, because they are willing to make sacrifices for the people that they care about, people in general. And I thought that was such a beautiful moment between them like that too. And it's like, don't worry, I'm gonna look after Maddie, I got this, And I even love that line, and you could tell, I'm gonna go right to it. That Abby situation breaks my heart. They are not, dude, like obviously we lost Jaha last season, we lost Marcus like 2 episodes ago, and now we lost Abby. It's like, holy crap. I was like, no. The moment like it was like, oh, Abby's a Nightblood, and the moment she's like, where does it matter where the Nightblood comes out, he's like, it doesn't. The moment he smirked up, I'm like, he plans on making her Simone. Out of anyone, of course he's going to, because he looked at her, was like, oh, she's a beautiful woman. Obviously, I'm fine with my wife looking like, I knew it in that moment. I was like, don't do it, you piece of shit, Russell. I was hoping something would happen, but he kills Abby, and it's like everything over the course of her life flashing before her. It's like, oh my God. Because she has this like, moment with everyone. She has one with Jackson that's beautiful, of like, yeah, I'm sorry I said the whole thing of like, oh, that's what a war criminal said, but it is going to be okay, because for her it's like, you are a good person. He's like, but the fact of the matter is, like, us doing the like, this Nightblood stuff, we're gonna get tons and tons of people killed because of this. But she's like, all we can do is basically take it step by step. All we can do is be better today than we were yesterday. It's like, it's a slow process, kind of having faith, because of what Marcus said, that we will figure this out in some shape or form. And then that heart to heart with Raven, oh my God, apologizing about everything, the drugs and what I did to you. The fact of the matter is, you asked me in the end, was it worth bringing Marcus back? No, it wasn't. I was so blinded by what I lost, I didn't see what I had in front of me. And it's like, I might not be your mother, Raven, but you are my daughter. Because even Raven was apologizing about, being kind of, pissed at her about everything. But it's like, and that's the beauty, because they do have such a tight relationship. They've had a tight relationship since season 1, and it's like, yeah, because even before Abby said, I was like, yeah, because Raven's like a daughter to you, and that's what she meant by, like, she still had Clark, and she still, well, because at the time, did she know about Clark? I'm trying to remember. I don't think she knew about Clark at that time. Yeah, because she didn't know about, she didn't know about Clark at that time. So it's just like, I still had Clark, at least at that point in time, at least I thought I did. And I have you, so I still have a family. And it's just like, dude, and it's just like, after that reconciliation, they hug and everything. And in that moment, like, Raven loses a mom. She loses easily one of her best friends and her mom in that moment. And it just sucks. After, that's the sad thing of, like, so much time, so much bad blood. And it's like, there's no getting that time back. And that's just the most heartbreaking thing. Especially because Clark lost her mom after everything. After being reunited, having that moment together. You never know when those moments will be your last moments. And that's just so heartbreaking, dude. That sucks. Like I said, it's like, dude, like, damn, dude, that's just like gut punch after gut punch. The freaking Kane situation was a gut punch, but I was like, okay, maybe we're gonna keep him around, but I kind of like that they didn't keep him around as someone else. It would have been cool, would have been interesting, but I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad that the character does die, because it's like, it'd be weird to see these characters continue on playing, like, but they're not themselves or someone. It would be weird to see the actors playing a different character, but it's like, holy crap, dude. At the same time, it's like, like I said, she's around pretending to be Josephine. She goes to Riker because it's like, oh, Riker can lower the shield. But it's like, no, Riker's already dead. She plays a role to take his mind drive, goes to Priya, and, like, Echo, Nate, as well as Guy are there. And it's like, oh, what happened to your son? He got cold feet. And Echo's looking like, wait, what? But once all said and done, she's like, yeah, because of course he didn't get cold feet. I killed him. And it's like, yo, Clark, you're back. And it's like, yeah, we got to do this. We got to rescue everybody. We're going to save Maddie. I love also the thing about everyone waiting outside. You have, like, because obviously Bellamy's getting a little nervous. He's worried, but then, because it's like, Echo will be fine. He's like, yeah, everyone thinks that. Even I think that. We're all fine until we're not, But then you have Octavia being like, have a little faith. Gabriel rushes in there once he hears that the naming is continuing and there's going to be more sacrifice. It's like, for you guys are willing to sacrifice a few to save the many. I'm trying to save as many lives as possible. So he turns himself in, obviously setting up the bomb and the toxins to kind of set off an alarm and everything. But the confrontation between Russell and Gabriel, it's like, all these years and now you come before me and everything. It's like, because I'm sure at one point in time he thought of Gabriel as a friend, as a son, especially because they worked so hard to bring, everyone back, and it's just, and I think that should speak volumes to Russell about the fact is that Gabriel, out of anyone, especially because he went through so much to bring your daughter back because he was in love with her, bring everyone back, that even if he's against this, but it's that thing of like, you live for so long, you lose your soul. That's the price to pay. And for him, it's like he justifies the whole murdering a whole bunch of other people to stay alive. You can't even admit that you're here getting people to praise you as gods. It's even like, oh, we'll bring all the primes back at once and then we'll squash any non-believers. They will see us as gods. It's like, the fact is you're holding on to that. There was some semblance of Russell being like, not that bad, but then he just crossed over because for him it's like, because like I said, at the end of the day, he's human, and humans are what? They're afraid to die. And him and his people, perpetuated this and kept going. And it's like, now it's so far along. It's like, we've lived this long. Why would we give up living now? No matter what the cost, no matter how many lives have to be sacrificed, as long as we continue, as long as we're worshipped as gods, like, who wouldn't want to be worshipped as a god, type of thing. And it's just, it's a shame. And when the time came, Gabriel couldn't pull the trigger because no matter what the circumstances may be, that I think it's because of the connection. That's one I once knew, no matter how evil it is. But at the same time, I think it's also just because Gabriel doesn't want to shed more blood to stop more bloodshed. It's like, even sacrificing one life is one life too many to stop all of this, So he gets recaptured. Clark has to learn firsthand, like, see her mom as Simone, and she has to fight back the tears. I think she pretends like it's all about Gabriel, but it's like having to fight back the tears. And you see like Raven and Jackson are there. They know that's Clark, and they know how hard it hits her. It hits them hard, but it's got to break Clark's heart, and she has to keep up the acting. It's like, dude, that sucks. That happened, man, and it's just like well, she still has family with the rest of the groups, but at the end of the day, her biological family, like, you know, losing her mom like that, you know, it's a shame, like, you know, it's just so, like I said, heartbreaking. And then, you know, obviously Maddie's still not knowing that's really her. But along with all of this, you know, Nate's obviously worried because it's like, oh man, Jackson's in there, I gotta save him. But it's like, no, they don't have the numbers for this. And then, because the whole point was like, oh, tell the truth. Obviously, there's the whole thing of using Riker as a means to get Priya to lower the shield. Which I even love Bellamy, like, see? I told you she'd do it, kind of like, yeah, I told you not to worry about it. And Octavia looks at him like, shut up, bro. I love that little cute moment. And showing, that little moment shows so much, too, of like, okay, things are definitely gotten better between them, and they're going to continue to get better. So that's dope. But at the same time, it's like, they end up getting Priya to confess the truth about them no longer being gods. But it also takes this as a time to be like, oh, we'll kill the non-believers. It's like, I love how you're like that, considering the fact is they're non-believers who now know the truth about you and the fraud that is everything about you. And I guess the guards, no matter what, I guess the guards, it's all that situation of they are a part of this. They don't know the truth, but they're like, no. We believe what we believe. We're wholehearted believers. Kind of going back to just how disturbing it is too. It's something that's there, but I probably commented on it earlier, but they comment on it in this episode. The characters themselves are like how morbid it is that they keep the bones of every host that they've ever had before, like their trophies, you know? So there's all of that. There's also the whole thing about, you know, Amari and John, you know, Murphy, you know, like, yes, this is about getting immortality, but Murphy does what he does. He helps out other people while also making sure he wins. It's like, so we'll get our immortality, but we'll also make sure that the others are safe. And even, you know, you even have, you know, Abby being like, I know you're scared to die, but the fact of the matter is, you don't want to like betray your friends for that sake. But he's like, believe it or not, I'm doing this for everyone else. Which, yeah, he is, because by being good with Russell, it's like, hey, I can prove to you, hey, you want to keep my friends alive because they're worth keeping around, trying to prove their value. But, you know, it's too late because like Abby's already gone. But then, like, you know, John is like, me and Amora, we're going to stay here to help our friends. And I love Clark being like, I'm so proud of you, Murphy. And he's like, and then him and Amora are like, wait, what? And Murphy's like, you should know that Josephine called me John. And it's just like, now they know that she's still alive and everything too. And it's just, once again, kind of coming out in the end to help. You know, once again, it's like, it's always John's situation. Like, I feel like anyone, like, Maury always has, like, the biggest moral quandary. Like, he's always kind of he always leans more, I feel like. And he's very good at seeming like he might not care as much. But Amori is always written over her face that, like, she leans, I think, more like, pretty, at this point, like 90-10. Like 90% that she cares and 10% she kind of goes along with it just because she loves John and everything. And because she has the same fears as him. But like John, I feel like he borderlines kind of 50-50 on many different regards. But kind of, I don't know. It's really hard to say, you know. But like I said, he's very good at kind of covering it up. But yeah, everyone in town, I feel like most of the people have been affected by the toxin and are turning on each other. We even see... what's her face? Delilah's parents kill Priya, and it's so sad because everything Priya did, it was for her son's sake. It's like, I'll tell the truth as long as it means I get my son back. So even if it means destroying everything we have, at the very least he's still here alive. If I get a chance, maybe I can bring him back. But now she's dead, you know. And I think it's sad, you know, and poetic that obviously like her parents would do that, get the closure to know like, hey, you're not my daughter anymore, so I kill you. I look at that as heavy ass foreshadowing. I think when it's all said and done in the next episode, which is the season finale, I'm going to talk about that more in a second, but I think when it's all said and done, I believe Clark is going to kill Russell and Simone. Because Simone, it's like, oh, it's done. My mom is gone. There's no bringing her back, but I'm not going to allow you to walk around in my mother's skin. I think that's what's going to happen. She's going to kill Russell because this is all on you. I get it. You want to save your people, because even that's why he chose Abby too. Because like, oh, you said you would never forgive me for killing your child, and I know that, so that's why he can't have her around, because she'd be an issue. But it's like now Clark is like, oh, I'm gonna let you also live knowing that your daughter, she's dead, not coming back. So she's probably going to add that little bit, and I think when it's all said and done, she's going to kill both of them, because and that's going to be kind of like. But the thing is, I'm sure that's going to be a conversation too. Is like, Clark, are you going to let them live? It might even be a situation where Clark walks away, lets them live, but Maddie, kind of being in her crazy state, kills both of them, and we see that Shade Hader has kind of taken over. That might be kind of how they set things up next episode. That's kind of the feeling I'm going for potentially, because they still ain't fixed the Maddie situation, because there's so much stuff that's come up that hasn't really allowed them a chance to do that. So that's going to be interesting. It'd be even sadder if we end up finding out like Maddie ends up killing Gaia next episode or something too. You don't know. I wouldn't think so, but you never know in that situation. So it seems like they're leaving, Sanctum behind. All the primes are planning to go to space, because obviously, once again, we're going back to the conversation. This is on a moon. This isn't even the planet itself. I guess because they've never had any like transport off the planet, because their transport's kind of messed up or whatever. Or maybe it's just because maybe they brought it up earlier. Whatever did happen to their ship, maybe there was just no way to repair it or whatever. I don't know. But once again, they're still like, this is Alpha. It's a moon. So what about the planet itself? Like, what's going to happen with that? That might be like the next steps going forward. Is going to be like, oh, they're planning on, because they're like, oh, we'll leave Sanctum for now. I guess they're going to wait for everyone to die, then they'll come back, and it's like, oh, we're ruling over everyone again. We perpetuate the whole thing. We're gods and everything. Plus, there's a shit ton of hosts up there now that they have the ability to make anyone black bloods. Like, there's a crap ton of people that are still asleep that they can use as hosts. So there's that as an element. There's still another element to kind of bring into this whole thing too. Dioza. What about her and the whole anomaly thing? What about Jordan? We have not seen him since he got stabbed by Maddie, so like, what's up with that? Especially because he's gonna come back next episode, probably mourn with Delilah's parents about her death. Like, even though that's not her, the fact is, it makes it even more that she's gone. It's like, but at the very least, her body can rest, because like someone's not around pretending to be her, like walking around in her flesh anymore. I think that's something to kind of be considered. But I think, when this is all said and done, this is the end for the way things operate. The question then becomes like, where does things go forward? Like, all this comes down to how the season finale plays out. It's going to be nuts, I'm sure. What about Gabriel? Because I think Gabriel might end up killing himself or removing himself from the situation, just because it's like, I'm part of that old world that let all this happen. I'm the reason why this all ended up happening. So all of us can't be around anymore. So the question then becomes like, do they destroy the mind drives and kill the people that have been possessed? Because it's like, this way you're putting those people to rest permanently and ending this once and for all by bringing an end to them, or do you keep them alive? Like, I'm so curious where they're gonna go. Like, I feel like they lean more towards destroying the mind drives and ending this once and for all. But another part of me is like, would they go through that trouble? Because like, Gabriel wouldn't, he couldn't pull the trigger. Like, he didn't want to go through that extreme with Josephine. It's like putting her in her mind drive and leave her there. Sure, make sure that this can't go forward. But it's like, are you going to destroy the mind drives to make sure that doesn't happen? Gabriel couldn't pull the trigger. But you have Clark having been put in this situation multiple times before, and if it means not just only saving her people, but saving so many people from ever having to repeat this horrible thing, that this doesn't perpetuate anymore, then she might be the one to kind of put an end to it. I have no idea. I am so excited to see how everything plays out in the season finale. Like I said, it's going to be nuts. Because I just thought about that too. I'm such an idiot. I was like, oh, but won't they have to worry about their bodies aging? I'm such an idiot. There's cryo chambers up there. They could just go to sleep and then like wake up and like, oh, it's been a couple hundred years or whatever. Everyone up there's dead. We can go back. Maybe that's their idea. Maybe there's other plans in place. I like I said, I don't know. Like I said, we'll have to wait and see how the season finale plays out. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good